Imagine going to the doctors yesterday, thinking that, there could be an issue with yourself, with your body. I had a shooting pain in my arm, went to go and get it checked out by the GP. GP told me to go and do an ECG, blood test at the hospital. There all day. They tell me that blood test comes back, body's in good nick. They're even going, you know what, you're even showing signs of having an active body of a 30-year-old, even though you're 40, Jacob. Blood pressure, though. We need to have a look into that. Do you drink a lot? No. Occasionally, I'll have a glass of wine with my dinner, or, if it's the weekend. Do you smoke cigarettes? Nope. Do you exercise? Not as much as I used to because, I've injured my ankle. I find myself not playing football as much anymore, if not at all. And I don't really go to the gym because life be lifing. Okay, is there anything else you're not disclosing, Jacob? Not as far as I know, Doc. All right, then. Make sure that you're keeping on top of your blood pressure, eating healthily, don't drink, blah, 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 blah. No problems. Light work. I'll even start walking tomorrow, Doc. So the plan was for me to eat a nice healthy dinner, go for a walk this evening, after the game. One thing I didn't disclose to the doctor, though, do you know why my blood pressure might be going up, mate? Supporting Tottenham Hotspur. Over the last 2 years, I wouldn't be surprised if my blood pressure has gone from here to here because of this stupid club. Now, people are telling me, and this isn't Tottenham fans only, neutral fans. Jacob, be a bit more upbeat. You're spending money. I'm getting text Tonali, Van Hecke, Fernandez. Ho, 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 ho. And my response was always, we'll see how it goes, but I still feel that there's issues at this club. So people are telling me what? I said, one thing you can't buy, that money can't buy, is happiness. The mentality at this club, no matter how much money you throw at it, has always been a negative one. It's always been Spursy, but it's been at the lowest of all lows over the last 2 years. 1 year we finished 17th and won the Europa League. That papered over the cracks because the next season we were 1 game away from relegation. Right? You can't just throw money at that. Now, if you look at Liverpool won the damn thing. They won the Premier League. They went and spent the money that we're spending and they couldn't retain it. Right? So, but people are telling me that because we spent the same amount of money, we're going to go, not just challenge with Liverpool, we're going to go above them. How? But just because we bought Tonali. There's things that are wrong at this club already. The mentality of the players, even for me, a lot of the mentality of the fans, because I know Tottenham fans that were like me last season, down in the dumps. Now all of a sudden they're telling me to cheer up because we spent 400 mil. We've got Tonali. He eats ravioli. I'm like, come on, man. These are people that are the same age as me or older. I'm like, are you still a kid? Because these people that are fans can be easily manipulated. And I'm not just talking about Tottenham fans. I'm talking about fans in general. All of a sudden you're spending this money and you get excited. For me, I've learned as a Spurs fan especially not to get too excited. But Liverpool is a fine example. They're the most successful club in the land. Bar none. And they just won the league. And they spent that amount of money. My cousin supports Liverpool and he would have told you, fair enough, we spent the money, but there's still issues. We've got this position that's a worry. This position, this player's out on his legs. This player might get injured. We've got Diego Jota that passed away. Why is that? Because my cousin's a realist. And then you look at them, it was, they scraped top 4 or Champions League spot. Now, for me, everyone's talking to me, Tottenham fans and everyone, about we're going to get top 4 and just, go above Liverpool, go above Villa, go above Man United, City. You're even seeing it with these pundits. These are pundits that are getting paid more money than I could ever think of. And they're telling me, it's a limbo between Man United and Tottenham. Why? Because we spent 400 million. We're just gonna go above all these clubs, including Brentford. Shout out Brentford. I'll speak about them in a minute. But I'm gonna go about my club first. Normally I'll give the opposition respect, but my team needs to be spoken on. I spoke to one of my best mates earlier, and he was like, "You gassed? You watching the game?" And I said, "Nah, bruv." And he's like, "Why?" I said, if I was Brentford's manager, look at our right side of our tactics. You got Archie Gray. Not only is he right back, which is out of position, he's now been made our youngest captain. So you're putting unnecessary pressure on the guy. But we've also got Mikey Moore, who was probably being told you're going Germany, and then all of a sudden you're like, actually, no, what we need to do is keep you because we ain't got no other wingers because we don't prepare because we're Tottenham. And what we're going to do is we're going to play you out of position as well. So even though you're a young player in Scotland playing off the left, we're going to play you on the right, mate. So then all of a sudden you've got two teenagers against Brentford with all these physical lads that know what they're doing. They're just going to go down that flank. And you saw Sade. Sade was winning all sorts of headers. He was coming inside. No one was getting at him. Why? Because it's light work. Do you know what I mean? On the other side, it's a little bit tricky because you've got Tell. There's an established player, Bayern Munich, and you've got Andy Robertson. So it's kind of like, well, you don't really go down there too far. And Brentford weren't really doing that. You know, Otara didn't really have too much joy with Andy Robertson. And Tell wasn't great, but he done a 5 out of 10 against his man and tracked back. But all in all, it's like, you look, people are telling me Van Hecker, and I've done it on video, so there's evidence, right, where I've said that Van Hecker on the ball, mustard. He'll play these diagonals. He'll do all of that. He'll play a nice little pass into the midfield. I saw it at Brighton, even under De Zerbi, mate, that he's a bit suspect when it comes to positioning and, you know, actually defending. You know, I don't want Romero at this club, but Romero's a better defender than him. Romero's just stupid, heartless, brutal, and don't care about the club. So I'd rather have anybody than him, if I'm honest. However, you can't tell me that Van Hecker, when it comes to sniffing danger and putting his head where it hurts and all of that stuff, which is what you should be as a centre-half, he's got, because he hasn't. Senesi's the same. Senesi and Van Hecker are two centre-halves that if they've got a Van Dijk next to them or a Vidic or, you know, somebody that's got a big mouth that's going, here, mate, where you going, marshalling the back four, they're calm. We didn't have anybody marshalling the back four. Like, if anything, Andy Robertson kept saying, what are you guys doing? You know, when I talk about Andy Robertson, I know Liverpool fans that wished him all the best in terms of a send-off. That tells you everything. If we're trying to compete with Liverpool and Liverpool are like all the best, mate, that proves that they don't even think that they need him. They might need him in the dressing room. They might need him because they need that Scouse element to understand the Scouser and all that. But for me, physically and up and down the pitch, is he any better than a doggy? No chance. Is he any better than Jed Spence? Somebody that we've just got rid of because he said he wanted to leave. How about we be ruthless as a club and say, Jed, you're not going anywhere, mate. We didn't have to sell him. But only did we sell him? We sold him for 30 mil. But then you could click day one, we see we need another right back. If you played Jed Spence today and told him, look, you're staying, and he actually played all right, he might have gone, you know what, I'll hang about and see what happens. On top of that, he might have even, you know, staked his claim. But nah, we just get rid of him for 30 mil because we need the money. You know, and then you look at that midfield, it just... That got run through by something that I wish I could say, but I know my kids are watching this. Like, everybody kept gassing me up again, or trying to. We've got Tonali and Fernandez. Cool. Who's going to be behind them sniffing out danger? I've been saying it time and time again to people. We've only got one ball-winning midfielder at the club, and he gets injured all the time. In Bentancur. And he's a 6 out of 10 when you think of all these midfielders that you can get. You know, you look at Sangari today, mate. You go and buy him for 30, 40 mil. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, chat to me then. I can see it. Ran through the midfield. Ran through it. It ran through like diarrhea. Our midfield was like, you know, what you drain out of a rusty radiator. Dutty, watery, slippery. Bergvall. Why are you playing somebody like that? When it's either he wants to leave or we don't want him. But either way, we don't know what we're doing with Bergvall. But what we do is go, yeah, go and play against Brentford. These are just dumb decisions. Like, how is it that our midfield looked more solid and looked better towards the end of the game? If Bentancur's on the bench, if, you know, Fernandez on the bench, I don't understand this logic of putting them on the bench and seeing how it goes. Because if Bergvall got injured in the first minute, you'd have to bring him on. So why don't you just start them then? Because if they're ready to be on the bench, they're ready to start. Because an injury in the first minute means you've got to come on. You know, Mikey Moore's a young kid. He should be coming on trying to influence the game. But we ain't got any wingers. So even if we go and get Savinho, we've only got two. Odegaard, we're going to sit there and wait till Christmas for him to come back. Knowing Tottenham, we'll go and get Son. when the Americans have their break, and bring him back. And then when you go to the attack, man, like honestly, Richarlison needs to be gone. It's just simple as that. The only edge we had was Tell. Mikey Moore looked like a nervous wreck. We bring Solanke on. Is he any better? We bring in Maddison on, man. Like, everyone talks about Maddison. Maddison's days are gone. Let me tell you that, man. I'll guarantee it. He's either injured all the time or just running around having banter with everybody and throwing darts. I don't care about that, man. I'd rather Maddison sit there and don't smile, don't do anything. Just get on with the game, man. I don't care if you throw darts. I don't care if you go alley-pally. I don't care if you got the long hair and all that stuff. But there's a lot of Tottenham fans that want this guy as the captain because he's a lovable guy. Nah, mate. We've got 5 captains, though, so don't worry about it. It's just, mate, like I said it to my son. And my son's a realist because he nodded his head. And I said, because he was like, where do you think Tottenham going to finish? I said, where realistically I think we're going to finish is 8th. But for me to say, yeah, Tottenham, I'm going to be happy with Tottenham, is if we finished 6th, but we were playing a brand of football that I believed in and did simple things like won our games at home. Do you know what I mean? People are telling me about Tottenham are going to get top 4. You can't. Your home hasn't been a fortress since you bought it or since you created it. It's never been a fortress. I've never believed we're always going to win at home. The only time maybe was Conte, but apart from that, no. Do you know what I mean? It's like people need to get their head out their backsides and understand that the only time that somebody's finished 17th and gone on to not only finish in the top spots but actually win the thing was Leicester. But we all know that someone banged Judge for that to happen, because still to this day can't get my head around how that happened. But it happened. That ain't gonna happen again. So for me, if Tottenham were to finish 10th, it won't surprise me. But what would surprise me is if we finished 10th and we weren't playing good football, because De Zerbi's got to spend the money and do that. But we got to be logical here. Brentford are a solid outfit that finished in the European spots, the spots that I'm saying that I'll be happy with now, and and they know what they're doing. They had 9 players in there that started most games from last season, and the one or two players that didn't start last season were fantastic. Sangari. Everyone talks about spending money. That guy there, he's going to go for 100 mil at some point to a Tottenham or to an Arsenal or a Chelsea. But it's like, why don't these clubs go and find them anyway? Why aren't we looking? It's because clubs of that ilk with all the money kind of go, yeah, let Brentford do it and then we'll buy them for 100 mil. Well, why don't we buy them for that amount of money and spend 100 mil elsewhere? Because we're too far up our backsides thinking, oh, we're Tottenham, it can never happen to us. Mark my words. Those mentalities are still fragile. You can't just get them players to forget about what happened last season. So we've just lost 3-0 to Brentford, yeah? They've absolutely battered us as well. Like, if you didn't watch the game, put it this way, if Thiago had his shooting boots on, he would have had a hat-trick today. That could have been 6 or 7-0. Granted, we had our chances with Mikey Moore, but Mikey Moore was just a nervous wreck that when the ball was coming to him, he just couldn't believe it had come to him, and he's playing out of position. If we've just lost to Brentford, then we've got Newcastle at home. So what if Newcastle all of a sudden beat Liverpool? Their tails are up, they're thinking, oh, it's a new era at St James's, and we all know that Newcastle do a number on us regardless of what squad they've got at our ground. So if we've gone and lost 2 on the bounce, all of a sudden people are going to start telling me to believe. No, you're going to start telling yourself that Jacob was right. So, for me, this is a message to not only Tottenham fans, neutral fans. Money cannot buy you happiness. Money doesn't always buy you success. Look at Brentford. Brentford have assembled that squad. For what? Peanuts. But they're going to win a lot of games at home just because they've got a system and a setup that everybody feeds into. So Tottenham have never been somebody that spends money. Now all of a sudden they're spending money and everyone just thinks it's going to work. But for years we've seen it. Man United since Fergie, how much money have they spent, man? And they're still trying to find a way of succeeding. But people think that Tottenham are just going to get in the top 4 for what? Just because? No. Our stadium looks like a toilet for a reason. Because we're crap. Jacob on the one up top. Have a blessed weekend, guys.